Hello, fourth and fifth graders. We are continuing our book, Sheep by Valerie Hobbs. We are still on chapter 1. And it's the doggy he's gone out to see the sheep, and he got chosen to be with the big dogs. And now he's riding on the back, and they're back in the pasture, and they see all of these sheep, and he can't believe how many sheep there are. Sheep were everywhere. The truck stopped, and they closed in all around us like a big woolly blanket, bawing and baying and stinking like sheep. Bob hopped down out of the cab and pushed his way through them to the back of the truck. When he lowered the tailgate, the fellows jumped down, working the sheep the minute they hit the ground, rounding them up without even trying. I hung back, a little soft in the belly, if you know what I mean. I was nervous. They were bigger than I was, every last one of them, and so many I couldn't even count them, more sheep than I thought were ever in the whole wide world. Well, you didn't have to count them, though. I didn't know that then. You just sort of felt them, Dad said. That was how you knew when one went missing. You felt it somewhere inside of you. It sounded crazy to me. The smell was bad enough, but feeling sheep? I didn't think the sound of that. I figured it came to the worst, the sheep wouldn't do what I wanted. Well, I'd just bite one of them. But I learned soon enough that that was not the way. Only as a last resort would a dog bite a sheep. You should have seen Dad and old Dex, how they got those woolly guys all moving in the same direction. You could tell the sheep did not like it. They'd have no run. They'd only have to run a little, which they hated. So they grumbled the whole time. One old ewe, that's a ewe is a girl, really had her back up. She turned, frowned at the dogs, and tried to hold her ground. It came down to her and old Dex then, him with his snout low, ready to leap left or right, and that eye he gave her, it made me shiver just to watch it. The old lady just couldn't hold out against that eye. She gave old Dex one last haughty look, and then she turned around and trotted off after the others, her fat little tail between her legs. I ran back and forth, trying to get a look. I knew what I was doing, practicing my sheep eye. The sheep ignored me, like I was a pesky fly. After a while, Dad told me to calm down, but I couldn't. I'd gotten the taste of what life was all about, and I didn't want to miss a second of it. Keep your eye on old Dex, Dad said. You've got a chance to learn from a master. So I did. Wherever old Dex went, that is where I tried to be. But it wasn't easy. One second he'd be racing full out along the flock. Then he'd stop, ears up, and cut another way. Bob would call to order from a long way off, telling you what he wanted, and you had to do it right then. It was tricky, but when you got got the sheep going the way they were supposed to, like a big muddy gray river rolling across the land, you were happy inside. It was better than a good meal, better than a rub down, even better than Mom saying you were her best boy. Well, she said it to my brothers too. I know she did. When the sheep were right, you had that deep down good feeling that you were making a difference. You were doing what you were meant to do, what you believed in, what you were really good at. Have you guys ever felt that way about something that you can do well? I'll tell you, nothing in the world is better than that. The day came to an end too soon for me. We all bounded back into the truck, and as the land took that last lick of the sun, we landed home. I learned more than my head could hold. I knew for certain my purpose in this life, and I was ready to do it, flat out with all my heart. But it wasn't meant to be. One day when we gathered all the sheep and were driving them down to the barns, a storm rose up out of nowhere. The wind began to moan and cry. Lightning struck all around, and the dry grass caught fire. I saw Bob riding his horse, Appy. He looked at us and to where the sky was turning orange. I heard him call an order. Then he pulled his bandana up over his nose, gave Appy a slap, and raced ahead. We dogs went into his top speed, pushing those sheep, even nipping their heels when they wouldn't run. Something was cracking behind us. I turned and saw the tongues of a flame licking, racing up against with us. Don't look back, old Dex barked. Run! I ran. I ran until I thought I could run. I couldn't run another step until I couldn't see the sheep for the smoke. And then I ran some more. The ranch was lost, most of it anyway. Bob sold off the wool, then a lot of the sheep. It was a sad time for us all, but we worked with when Bob wanted us to, and we did our part. Then one morning, months later, instead of the old red truck, there came a different truck. This one was big and black and had a wire all around the back of it. We soon learned why. When Ellen cried in Bob's arms, we pups were rounded up and put into the big cage. You never heard such howling and barking, dogs everywhere, and men chasing after them. I was so curious. They snatched me up first. Mom went wild. She ran in circles, up to Bob, then back to the truck, barking and crying. Where was Dad? Dad would save us, wouldn't he? Then as the truck pulled away, I saw him. He was standing off to the side, next to old Dex. I yelled, Dad! So did my brothers and sisters, all yelping and barking at once. Dad lifted his snout. I think by that he meant for us to be brave. But my heart was breaking, and I couldn't be brave. I whined and I yipped and I cried until I had no voice left. Where were they taking us, and why did they leave our moms and dads behind? Why didn't they want old Dex, the best of us all? How would we learn to herd the sheep without him? And where was Bob and Ellen? Why did they let the black truck take us away? The rest I'd rather forget. Somewhere on that dark journey, I lost a brother, my sister, all my friends, and then my last brother, the runt, and I was alone. Caged like the lowest form of a criminal. Going where? I couldn't begin to guess. Exhausted, I slept as much as I could, hearing only the clink and clank of metal as I went from one cage to another. At last I opened my eyes and found myself in a space hardly big enough to turn around in. Staring through glass, across the way a bunch of mice were running like crazy around a little wheel. Next to me, a pair of beagle pups were curled up together asleep. Where was I? I yipped and I turned in circles, scratching at the glass, but nobody came. The mice never turned their pink noses, never stopped running. I had to settle myself down, figure out where I was. I could see it was a place with lots of animals. Alongside the mice was another glass box. This one was filled with water and the strangest creatures I had ever seen. Gold and blue and green with round, staring eyes and wavy tails. Well, I had never seen fish before, so you can imagine what I thought. The fish and mice were so busy I could forget for a little while while I was behind the glass too. But every now and then, big green and yellow bird hanging from the ceiling would screech, "Abandon ship! Abandon ship!" And this scared me half to death. After a while, a man came and opened the door. "Here we go, pup," he said, and lifted me out. I was so grateful to be free of that box. I slobbered all over his hand. He scratched my neck. Then he slung me over his shoulder and carried me through the whole place. It was something all right, filled with animals I'd never seen the likes of in my life. Not only fish, but snakes and lizards too. Well, I'd run into a few of those in my ranch, but none as big as these guys. One lizard gave me the eye, turning his big green head real slow as we passed. It gave me the creeps, but all the while a bunch of canaries were singing their hearts out. It made you feel as if everything would turn out all right after all. That's when I saw the water, the whole tub of it, and it was meant for me. "In you go," the man said. My feet started scrambling through the air. I cried like a baby, but it didn't do me one bit of good. "It's all right," the man said, and plopped me in the water. I went. You'll feel lots better when you've had a nice warm bath. I'll bet you've heard that one before. Well, I knew that if I needed a bath, Bob would have given me one. And now I knew why he didn't. Baths were terrible things. Soap suds in your eyes and up your nose, making you sneeze, bubbles popping and snapping in your ears, your feet slipping out beneath you. Afterwards, I couldn't stop shaking. Couldn't get all the water off. I really thought I had lost the good smell off me forever. You know how that is. Once you wash a dog, they want to go roll in the dirt and they get that gross smell again. Dinner wasn't much better. Hard little pellets tasted like a paper bag that they came out of. And then back to the darn glass box. I folded my paws over my head and went to sleep, longing for home. I didn't like this place. I don't think the other pups did either. The beagles slept all the time. I think they were depressed. It was downright humiliating for a dog to be stuck like a fish or a snake inside a glass box, especially a dog of my proud lineage. I kept thinking about my dad, about the way he lifted his snout. I was trying to be brave, but I couldn't help wondering what it would become of me. Why did the man keep me in a box? Didn't he have some sheep somewhere that I could herd? What good was a dog in a box? Well, I didn't have time to wonder for long. One afternoon, a little girl with yellow curls pointed up to me and said, "I want him." The girl's father moved on to the beagles. How about these? He said. There are lots of nice dogs in this pet shop. I want him, I want him, I want him, the little girl shrieked, jumping up and down. The father smiled. I guess he liked the way she jumped and shrieked. Well, it is your birthday, he said. You get to choose. The man with all the animals opened my box and lifted me out. You are one lucky pup, he said, handing me over to the father. You're going to have a new home. We got into a shiny blue car. Penelope, that was the girl's name, put me in her lap. I hopped right off to explore the car, but she yanked me back. You have to sit still, she said. Well, I was so excited I couldn't hardly hold my water, much less sit still, but I tried. Penelope wasn't very strong, but she shrieked like anything. The world went flying by the car window so fast I couldn't see straight. Penelope had her arms locked tight around me, and I could hardly breathe. I was glad when we at last came to a stop in front of a big white house. We got out, and Penelope put me down. I ran straight for the grass. All around the grass were pointy little sticks and red flowers. The flowers poked your nose if you tried to smell them. I was about to mark my new territory when Penelope snatched me right off my feet and took me into the house. In no time at all, she had a dress on me with a matching bonnet and was pushing me in a baby stroller. You're my baby Blackie, said Penelope, and I'm your mommy. Now don't wet your pants, baby, or mommy will have to spank you. It makes you cringe, doesn't it? Oh, honey, said Penelope's mother to Penelope's father. Come see this. Isn't this the cutest thing? No help there. My self-respect was leaking like a rusty bucket. At last I was released from my silly clothes and taken outside. There I was given a corner of the yard in which to do my business and a miniature version of the White House to live in. So he found himself a home. It is with a crazy little girl, but hopefully he will be okay. It is kind of interesting to think about the perspective of a dog, of what a pet store would be like for them, how hard that would be to be in a little space like that. It makes you feel sad for them. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week, and I will be the library's coming to your classes this week. You guys will all get a turn to get a book. If you are in the purple group and you would like to get a book, you can email me at ghaws@solvingschool.org and set up an appointment to come get books. I hope to see you guys soon. Have a great week. Bye.